welcome to the Sheep and Cheerful podcast. My name is Nikki. I am your host and CEO of all things Sheep and Cheerful. And, excuse me, it is Wednesday, June the 9th. I just had a run through of that in my mind before I turned on, and I still had to pause to remember. Today is Wednesday, I'm recording, and the podcast will be up tomorrow. So, obviously June the 10th. This is, now, I'm going to check this because Gary has been messing around with my head, telling me that it's going to be, I have this issue about what episode number we are. He's telling me it's episode 9. It's not. No, he's telling me it's episode 10, and it's not. It's episode 9. This is episode 9 of the Sheep and Cheerful podcast, which is a podcast about knitting, spinning, weaving, sewing, cross stitch, you name it, we throw some of it in. And basically my endeavours of living as creative and cheerful a life as I can in my home down on the south coast of the United Kingdom with my family. It's raining and a bit overcast today out there, but we're going to have lots of sunshine in here. How utterly cheesy was that? I had to look. I've gone back in my notes because I can never remember what to say at the beginning, and I always muck it up. So there we go. Excuse me, my cough is particularly bad. It will be all through the summer, I suspect. So I shall probably apologise every week for it, but just take that as, an ongoing apology for the cough. I will try not to cough. Nobody needs that, do they? And I've got to stop saying It's like I haven't done this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it was only 6 days ago that I did it, for goodness sake. Okay, so if you want to track me down on social media, you can find me as Clara Peggotty on Instagram. I'm Clara Peggotty on Ravelry, and there is now a podcast group on Ravelry called, funnily enough, Sheep and Cheerful Podcast. Do hop along if you like being part of a group, if you like joining into things, or even if you like just reading what other people are up to, but you're a little bit too shy to comment yourself. Do join in. There is an introduction thread. There is another thread, but the main one at the moment is the introduction thread. And we've got some lovely, lovely stories being shared about where people are, what they craft, how long they've been crafting, how many grandchildren they've got. Can I just say I'm not there yet? And pets, we love hearing about pets, and there's a nice little segue for you. Those of you who've watched before will know, but those of you who are new, I should have said welcome. There are 2 other members of this podcast that you will frequently probably hear rather than see, and that they are my hounds, Honey and Henry, who are English Springer Spaniels. They are incredibly needy and incredibly, I want to say loyal to me. Needy. They're just there. Henry's curled up on the settee, Honey is on the windowsill, and they will probably move around from time to time and cause me no end of strife. We also have a new member of the family. I will talk more about that later. Those of you who follow me on Instagram will have probably seen, but I will chat about that later. So yes, welcome if you are new to the podcast. We're just getting going now, really starting to pick up steam. We've got so many exciting things coming your way. It's really, really cool. If you're an existing viewer, welcome back. Thank you for coming back for more of the madness. Thank you again for all your messages and comments. It's just fantastic. I'm loving it. Now, with regards to the Ravelry Group, those of you who watch my lovely, lovely friend Sherrie, who is the lady behind the Ollie and Bella podcast and Ollie and Bella on Instagram, we have become very good friends over the last few weeks. We've discovered, I think I mentioned last week, how much we have in common. And we have lots and lots of ideas for make-alongs and knit-alongs and lots of alongs. and she is, what did I say she is? No, we have launched our first make along. She started it with her podcast last week. She snuck in a podcast before I got mine out and has launched it from her side of things. I will be talking about it from this side of things in a little while, but she is also running a Ravelry group. She has a Ravelry group for the podcast, and so we've both got chatter threads up for the make-alongs. So check out her podcast if you haven't already seen it. She has a young family, so she doesn't podcast quite as regularly as I am able to, but she's an absolute sweetheart, like I said last week, and you should watch her podcast. And she's got a really cute cat called Maisie. I didn't see the other one. I'm trying to think, what's the other one called? Sherrie? I want to say Daisy. Is it Daisy and Maisie? No. Molly? No. Don't know. Anyway, hop over to see her. So, 6 minutes. Okay. First of all, can I just refer back to the previous podcast, the happy dance? Thank you for your lovely comments about my happy dance. Didn't feel it was one of my best, but just between you and me. Beyonce has contacted me to see if I would dance in her next video. I'm going to say no. It's like, what? I've got knitting to do. I've got sewing to do. I can't be going around dancing and with all that glam and glitz and party life. So, yeah. Just thought I'd share that with you because I know it won't go any further. So people who haven't watched already are getting an idea of what they're in for with that. Let's have a look at my notes. Yes, today's book review. I always do. That's not very well placed, is it there? I always talk about a book at the end of the crafting section. And today, slight change in genre. I'm going to be talking about Big Magic, which is a book written by Elizabeth Gilbert, the acclaimed author of Eat, Pray, Love. But Big Magic is a book about creative living, very much from her heart. It's obviously not a novel. What do I want to say? It's not fiction, it's non-fiction. And in it, she discusses ideas and thoughts about creativity and how we should embrace it and go forward and try and shake off our fears. And it's fabulous. I absolutely love it. It would probably be up there as one of my desert island books, I have to say. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later. What else? Okay, so how has my week been? It was Jonah's birthday. My baby boy was 25 years old. Now, I'm sure that's wrong. I'm sure he's about 7. I'm sure he's not 25. Something in the calculating has gone wrong then. He's my baby. He's my boy. But he's doing a very good job of being a young man now. So I have to hand that to him. Again, you may or may not be aware, he's currently at university. I say currently at university, obviously not currently because universities are closed, but he's going into his 3rd year studying to be a paramedic. So quite an opportune career these days, isn't it? And he had his birthday on, when was it? Joe, when was your birthday? Was it Friday or Saturday last week? One of those days anyway. And he had his favourite dinner, which I cooked for him. And I completely can't remember what it was. What did I make for him? Do you know what? I've completely blanked. No, can't remember. Mother of the year me. I did remember his birthday. I just can't remember what I cooked for him. Yeah, so we had a nice day because all 4 of us are at home at the moment. It was great. So that was good. And then related to the big news of the week, Hannah, my daughter, who is 23, decided she wanted another pet. And she's been looking at pets for a while. She had a fish who she was very attached to, Dexter, the killer goldfish, as we call him. He was a platy, he wasn't a goldfish. He was the one surviving fish of many, which is why we called him the killer fish, because we think he just ate all the others. And he lived for about 3.5, 4 years, which is long for a platy. And he died a few months ago, and she's been hankering after another pet. She's very, very mean because she says she wants another puppy. And I said, no, look, we've got 2. They would be upset. We couldn't get another cat or a dog or anything like that because my 2 would not be happy. But instead, she settled on a chinchilla. So we now have Gilbert the chinchilla as the newest member of the family. Now again, we'll talk a bit more about that later. But the fact was that on Sunday, they're quite hard to track down actually these days, chinchillas. The pet shops don't sell them, and the breeders, they seem to go, you have to reserve them very quickly if they've got, babies and things. Fortunately, she tracked one down that was about an hour and a half away from us. And we thought, well, with lockdown easing, that would be okay. They were going to do the whole mask thing when she went to collect him. So Jonah, as the loving brother he is, said he would drive her up to Surrey, which says about an hour and a half away. He knows the route quite well because his girlfriend lives up that way. And they went off at about 4 o'clock Sunday afternoon. So off they went to fetch Gilbert. And then we got a phone call at about 8 o'clock. Oh, we knew they'd picked him up, all safe and sound, and they were on their way home. Jonah had got a flat tyre. He's got a little car, just a little Toyota Aygo, and he'd got a flat tyre. And my bad, I take responsibility for this. He didn't know how to change a tyre. Hannah didn't know how to change a tyre. Now, I have to say, when my dad taught me to drive, one of the things he absolutely insisted on was when I learned to drive and drive a car, I also have to know how to change a tyre. So he taught me how to change a tyre, which is good because I have changed tyres frequently in my life. For some reason, I've done it about 4 or 5 times on whatever car I'm in, if I've had to. Sadly, I was not as good a parent. I hadn't taught the children how to change tyres. They didn't know what to do. But fortunately, they were only about 20 minutes from home. So I hopped in the car. Gary, of course, is shielding anyway, and he is still having some physiological issues. His hands are a bit clenched and he's got some pain. So it was down to me. So I drove off at about 8 o'clock Sunday night. Fortunately, it was still light. Found the kids, knew where they were exactly. And Joe, very sensibly, he had his paramedic high-vis jacket in the car. So he'd taken the paramedic bit off the back and was wearing his high-vis jacket anyway. And they'd pulled over into a side road. So I went and found them. Started to rain at this point. Said, right, come on, I'll show you how to change a tyre. Piece of cake, changing a tyre. Man, what is it with the jacks, the tyre jacks these days? They come, obviously they're in the car. I could not work out how to use this flipping tyre jack. It was the most bizarre thing. So yeah, I can change a wheel, but I couldn't work the tyre jack. So, sitting there and I couldn't get it to work. And then, praise be, the police pulled up. They were British Transport Police. They're in a big van. And they said they'd seen the high-vis jacket and they'd seen my legs. I was I was sitting with my legs out on the pavement. They were concerned there'd been an injury, a pedestrian injury or something. So I just wrote down that. So they pulled over and I said to them, look, I said, I can change a tyre, but I cannot make this jack work. And actually they were really sweet. The guy who did it said the only reason he knew how it worked was because a few weeks before he'd spent an hour trying to make his work. So I felt much better about that. And once he got it sort of uncompressed and working. I was fine. And they went off and I showed Jen how to change the tyre, and then we drove back in convoy and it was all fine. But then of course we had Gilbert to settle in, and oh my goodness, what an adventure. So yeah, that was Sunday night. That was the week. I think that's all I was going to talk about in stuff going on. Oh, I should also just mention before we get on to the knitting of what I'm wearing. I am wearing my So Faded sweater. It is so faded, isn't it? Didn't look that up. So I'm going to just, you know, I like wheeling back like this. Ta-da! So this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, of course. It's quite an oldie, but it's a favourite. I love this sweater. It's knit in fingering weight yarn, 4 different colours that I had in stash a few years ago when I knit it. And I really love it. It's lightweight enough to go on and not make you too hot, which I like. Did elbow length now, actually, just above elbow length sleeves. But yeah, really like that. I love this yarn. I can't tell you what the yarns are. It was too long ago that I made it, but yeah, you get that. You can see the things there. Very pretty. Right, for goodness sake, get on with the crafting, woman, I hear you all shout. Okay, shall we get on with the crafting? Right, okay, I have a finished object. Yay! And it is the Moonwake cowl. Ta-da! Look at that. How gorgeous is that? There you go. And we've got the twist, the Mobius twist in there. And it's cracking. And oh, I blocked it in tuft woolens. I'm not sure my dad's going to appreciate that smell actually, but it's gorgeous. So, I mean, it's quite a chunky monkey, it has to be said. Where's the twist? Twist at the front. There you go. Back again. That is very satisfactory, isn't it? Loving that. So if you remember, I had to wait for the next sort of yarn to come. This is knit out of KnitPicks Wool of the Andes. There is also, I don't know what I did with it. There is a skein of another KnitPicks worsted weight yarn. It might be Brava, I'm not sure. I know the merino one anyway, because they didn't have the grey when I reordered the grey, so I had to order it in a different blend. But it is so gorgeous, this. So yeah, so you can see 4 different colours, and you remember I got these colours from Stash when I started this. I started it in oh, what's the word I want to say? Mind blank. Gemma, little grey girl Gemma, was doing an isolation colourwork Cal knit along, and she persuaded me to jump in to it. And so I found this from Stash, and I just so enjoyed knitting. I love colourwork. I love colourwork. It's knit, for those of you who don't know this pattern, it's knit as a tube. So if you're not sure about colourwork, it's quite a good one. There's only ever 2 colours to a round, so you don't have to be fiddly faddling with a 3rd or 4th colour. Very simple. The pattern you'll see, it's repeated all the way through. So once you get the knack of it, you're fine. You don't, strictly speaking, even have to weave in the ends. I knotted mine. I just tied a knot. She does say in the pattern that you can carry the yarn up, but I found I was just getting too much of a pickle having all these threads and things, so I just snipped them off and went back and tied them off afterwards, which is fine. And then at the end, what you have to do is that it starts with a provisional cast on. I don't even know where there, I think it is. I think that's where it was. That's that's the one there. See, so that's where I grafted. So you provisionally cast on, that's the way it goes. You knit, really should have practiced this, shouldn't I? You knit that way, yeah, you get to here, you leave your stitches live. Well, you put it on scrap yarn because then you block it, and then you bring it back and you graft it. And she talks you through how to put the twist in so that then you're Kitchener stitching the stitches to include the twist. Is that clear as mud? One of those days today, clearly. One of those years, one of those lifetimes. It's not very cool to laugh at yourself, is it? I've got the giggles now. So anyway, yes, wonderful, wonderful. I love this. I absolutely love it. And I have got 4 more colours to start on another one straight away. And I've only just realised that. Shall I show you? Do you want to see it? To be honest, you don't get to vote because you're over there and I'm over here. So, oh, I'm such a funny girl. Right. Okay, so the new colours I have got, because this is for my papa, my old dad, and I am going to make, oh, something in my eye now. I'm going to make one for mum so they can have one at Christmas, because I think that will be really rather nice. And they're really a really enjoyable knit. So the colours I have got for mums are those. And again, all of the Andes, cheap as chips. There. So that will be, hopefully, my mums, they don't watch the podcast. They wouldn't be doing something like that. They see enough of me in real life. Excuse me. Yeah, so worsted weight yarn, it's just Peruvian Highland wool, which I love anyway, and it's great for colour work because it's grippy. And so, yeah, mum's going to have that one. I'm not sure when I'm going to cast it on. Probably in my next bout of startitis, I will cast that on. What should I do with that? Put that over there. Now, excuse me, I've got something in my eye. It's probably a strand of hair. I'm just going to cut you off for a moment because nobody needs to see me poking my finger in my eye. Okay, we're back. That was really rather irritating. Sorry about that. Just to finish off with the Moonwake cowl, I will show you my record card that I made, that I had going. This is one I chose to use with one of my fabric cupboard ones. So you've got, I just obviously added fabric scraps to that and stuck the name on, across zigzag stitched all the way around. These are the 4 yarns you can see that I used. And then obviously notes on the back of the design. So that sits in my project keeper, which is now, if I can find the front, we're getting some nice sort of threads hanging out, make it nice and tactile. So that is the Moonwake cowl, my one finished object. I probably talked about that way too much, but there we go. Right, okay, next, what should we talk about next? The chicken sweater. Okay, now you won't know this, but in the interest of transparency, I'm going to tell you, I just started recording the section about my next work in progress, and I lost the pattern. I have lost the pattern. Then I thought, in the end, I'm going to have to go on Ravelry and show you, my computer, my laptop picture of it on Ravelry. And then the internet went down. Honestly, I have lost this pattern. I have no idea where it is, but despite the fact that I am extremely perturbed about this, I'm going to continue because we're troopers. The show must go on. Yeah. Well, now, the good news is I did find, when I was looking for the pattern, I found some other bits I was going to talk about that I'd left outside. So there you go. Right. My next work in progress is my chicken sweater, which is also known as the Jupiter Crop by Caitlin Hunter. And I'm going to show you the picture for those of you who don't know it. There you go. That's it. It's absolutely stunning, really beautiful. Oh, I think the colour went all ropey then. And it is based on the colour, hang on, let's see if I can enlarge this a bit. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Of one of her chickens, and that's why she chose the feathery pattern, and hence why I call it the chicken sweater. It's a Sportweight sweater. Right, let's put that to one side because I am going, I'll lose my computer as well. And I chose to use Swans Island Merino in Sportweight, which I think I showed you last week. And I used the Wonderland yarns Mad Hatter Sportweight minis. Well, they're not exactly minis, but that's the colours I used. I am so excited. I have been working much on this. I've got a lot done since last time. And I'll do this without taking it off the needles. Ta-da! Look at that. I mean, to be honest, that's almost worthy of a happy dance. But we'll save that for when it's done. So there you go. So I am on the 4th contrasting colour of the Mad Hatter colours, which is a kind of a grey. Can you see that? So I've obviously got pink, mint, blue speckled. They're all speckled actually. And then I've got this grey there. And I adore this. So actually look, just to prove that I've been working hard. That's where I was last week when I showed you. And now with all the increases, can I just say as well, I'm actually not far off. Well, I'm not going to stretch that down, but I'm not far off separating for the sleeves. I do need to check my, I did check my row gauge actually, and it's all good. So happy with that. The next colour, the other two colours I've got are these two. So the set that I got, the Wonderland yarns Mad Hatter, sorry, look, can you see there's a difference between those two? Obviously they're the other two colours. Now the set I'm using is called Tea Time 102. The shop I bought it from is out of stock at the moment, and I think I might need another set, but I don't know. I think I might be able to fudge it a bit. You get 516 yards in this, and it's going to be a bit touch and go, but we'll see. I spoke to you last week about the fact that I had problems with my gauge with this. This is the Swans Island. This is a very fine merino, a very fine Sportweight yarn. These are quite plumptious, but this is quite fine. So I couldn't get gauge, if you remember. And somebody mentioned, could I just run through again, not the maths in great detail, about the alterations or the what I took into account. So what I did, my gauge was coming up too small, basically. I was getting, I mean, I don't see how you can get 20 stitches, a 20 stitch gauge or 5 stitches to the inch with a Sportweight yarn on 3.75mm. Even on 4s I couldn't get it. I was still on 6 inches, 6 stitches to the inch. And I didn't like the fabric. It was getting too loose and too holey to go up again into a bigger needle size. So what I did, really straightforward, pay attention, get your thinking caps on. I had my pathetic little swatch. Sorry, that was rude about the swatch, wasn't it? You're a lovely little swatch and you did what you needed to do. So I did the swatch, knew that I was aiming for 6 stitches, or that I would be getting 6 stitches per inch. I then looked at the sizes on the pattern. Now the bust measurement I was going for was 43.5 inches bust, around the bust. So I multiplied my 6 stitches per inch by 43.5, and I got the number of stitches then that I would expect to have on the needles at the widest point to fit me for that 43.5 inches. So I don't know, 6/4 is going to be 24. It was going to be something like 250 stitches, say. I'm just bear with me with that one. I don't have the pattern here, so I can't tell you. So 250 stitches. I went to the bit where you separated for the sleeves, for the arms, because that is going to be the bit where you take the bust measurement, more or less. I looked along the number of stitches that you should have, found out where it was as near to, say, 250 as I felt it needed to be. That then told me which of the sizes I needed to knit to get the size I wanted. So, for example, and I'm using 250 because, well, let's say, what was it? 6 stitches, 43, 3, put myself on the spot here. I should be able to do this in my head, shouldn't I? Excuse me, it's the cough going, it's stress. 240 plus 18 is 258 stitches, 261, I think. So I was looking along the bust stitch count till I saw something near about 261 stitches. That turned out to be the 6th number, and I think it was pretty spot on actually. So that meant that I was going to knit the 6th size, whereas normally I would have, if I'd have got a gauge, I would have been knitting the 4th size, but with my small gauge I needed to be knitting the 6th size. Is that totally confused everybody? To me, it's logical. It's to a knitting designer, maybe not. If there's any knitting designers watching and throwing their hands up in horror, sorry, but I can tell you that this is looking about the right size. So, you know, we'll see. So, yeah, so that's my chicken sweater. And as promised, as I mentioned last week, I've done my record card, my project card that I keep in the bag. I might have mentioned that my good friend Jen keeps chickens. So between us, we came up with a picture for the front of my project card. Look at that. She had a chicken exactly the right colours for my sweater. What are you going to do? Oh, I did laugh with that. Obviously she didn't. Sorry, spoiler alert, it's not really. It's a real chicken. As requested, she sent me a photograph. I printed it in black and white and then I coloured it in. So that's my project card. I think that's rather spectacular myself, but there you are. So Jupiter Crop, Caitlin Hunter. I'm using Swans Merino Sport, washable wool collection, and the excuse me, Wonderland yarns. Please don't all run to the shop to get these because I want the next one that comes in. Oh, and I should mention I am going to do project notes today, show notes down there, because a few people asked me last week about Victory yarns. It's not Victory, it's Fig Tree yarns. That's my bad pronunciation, and I will put it on the bottom. And it's a yarn shop based in Jersey, and they are able to import a lot of the UK yarns directly that we can't get hold of because postage would be prohibitive. So that's the Jupiter Crop. Really, really happy with that one. The other one is a new cast on, which I mentioned last week. Do you remember I said I bought some higher flyers to try as part of my investigation into knitting socks with different needles? And they are basically these little babies. Can you see those? That's it. Look at that. Some people reached out and said, yes, they use the... words have gone. It's a word gone day to day. And I love the word. I was going to put that in my nose. Oh. Addie. Can't remember. Honestly, what is going on? I need to up my medication. So, I cast on the kitchen sink shop socks. If you remember, I spoke about Sherrie was making them over in her podcast, and I really like them. It's a free pattern, and I decided I would knit them. I've been toying with the idea of using my sock blank that I dyed a couple of years ago. So I had this, really wanted to knit something with that, a pair of socks with that. Oh, by the way, this is in my beautiful dodgy bag that Karen made me. So there's my project card for the Wish You Were Here socks. And I'm also entering these in the Summer Sock Camp 2020 by the Crazy Sock Lady. So 2.25 millimeter higher flyers. And actually, go me. Ta-da! Now, let's look at the yarn first. That's the back of the sock. So I'm getting a little bit of micro striping, not much, but I'm getting most of the colour on the back at the moment, and the sort of a variegated softer colour on the front. And then you can, I don't think you can see the pattern there. The lace pattern is just down this front bit. Can you see that? I don't know if you can. But anyway, and I'm just started on the heel flap. So loving the way the sock blank is knitting up. Really like that. It's got me tempted to dye some more sock blanks actually. Do enjoy that. And I love the texture you get, the bumpy texture with a sock blank. Which by the way goes when you block it or when you wash it. Twisted rib, 1x1 twisted rib I did at the top. Now, I did put on Instagram, these are definitely something you need to get used to, but I'm actually enjoying using them. I'm still adjusting, I'm still playing around with how I hold them. Definitely hold them like that rather than when I hold my yarn normally. My needles, I would hold them like that. So now I'm holding them like that. The same with the mini circs that I was trying as well. The only thing is I'm finding purling with these. I'm on the heel flap, and I know some people go on to straights for a heel flap, which is tempting. I'm struggling with the purling on this, but I'm going to keep going and see how I go with this one, because I know how much easier it's got with practice just doing that bit. So actually, if I just keep practicing, practice makes better. Not perfect. But actually, I think these are really, excuse me, I think they're really quite cool. I'm really actually enjoying them. I might get the Addie version if I could remember the name of the needles, because I have to say I'm finding these a bit too sharp. These are the stainless steel sharps, and I do push down with that finger when I'm knitting, and yeah, they are a bit on the sharp side, but we'll see. So there you go. So it's the Wish You Were Here sock, which you can't actually, if I show you the picture there, there you go. You can see, that's in focus, isn't it? You can see the lace bit. I'm not too worried if you don't see it terribly much on this, because I really just wanted an excuse to use the sock blank. But yeah, really loving that. So that was my new cast on. Okay, let's put that away in my dodgy bag. My dodgy bag, there we go. Right, that in terms of knitting is all I got for you, but there's more, don't go away. Right, moving on then, we are going to move on to some crochet. Let's talk crochet. Now, those of you who watched Sherrie's podcast will know that she and I are launching a make-along. We are launching something called the Scrappy Blanket Adventures make-along. And this can be knit-along, or it can be a crochet-along, or a weave-along, or don't you really sew a blanket, do you? So, and it's all about, as you would imagine, scrappy blankets. So I'm going to show you mine, and then I'm going to tell you about the make-along rules and so on and so forth. You remember I showed this to you a little while back, and then last week I talked to you saying that I'd never really got into the whole scrappy blanket thing. And then I spoke to Sherrie about hers, and we talked about minis and swapping minis, and I got mine out and I fell in love with it all over again. Well, I've been putting some rows onto it. So I am making the cupcake stripe blanket from Attic 24. It's a free pattern from Lucy over on her blog. And it's just a little bit different to standard granny stripe. Hang on, I don't want to pull out. So there's lots of ends hanging off. So there you go. Ta-da! And you can see, come up here, where is it? You could see if I found it correctly. There you go. So that's where I was last time I showed it to you. Look at that. Look at what I've done. It's so pretty. Oh, I adore this. And even better, I put my first 2 gifted scrappy yarns in, and I put a marker there. So the 2, this yellowy green one and this sort of bluey purpley one, not the top purple one, but these 2 were 2 of the minis sent over, I mentioned last week, from Karen over in Australia. She sent me 3 little minis, and I put 2 of them. I would have put the third in, but it needs winding. And I was sitting down in front of the telly, and I just grabbed one from my bag that was already wound. So look at that. I love this. And you can see the stitch pattern. So you've got a 4-row repeat. So you've got clusters of triples and then just plain triples. And you just get this fabulous texture from that. Really loving this. I just want to put time in on this, to be honest, at the moment. The only downside of this is that I'm not very good at the ends. And it's this end, I think. It just sometimes, it just look too bad. It's a little bit uneven. But I think I'm doing okay. I'm confident enough now to do it intuitively. Famous last words. And that's my scrappy blanket. And I just love it. I just love it. So I think it's probably a third of the way done, really. So yes, the make along. Oh, I should say as well, I'm holding, and I know from our chatter thread that quite a few of you are doing this, I'm holding an indie dyed 4-ply yarn double with just a cream undyed yarn, and the yarn I'm using is Drops Alpaca, and it just makes it really soft and floofy, which I love, and it's cheap. It makes me sound really cheap, doesn't it? Excuse me again, irritating cough alert. So the Scrappy Blanket Adventures, basically it's open to anyone who wants to jump in. I've opened a chatter thread on the Ravelry Group on the podcast. We're going to be running that at least through to the end of the year. The only rule is, and it's fairly loose, but to say that you can jump in with a work in progress, but only really if you're less than halfway in already. Just really then it'll, unless you've got one that is been sitting in its bag for 5 years, and you've got another 25% to go, but you just cannot get the motivation to get out. If you genuinely feel like that, then jump on in and use this as motivation maybe to get it out. But otherwise, either obviously a new project. I do believe Sherrie has cast on another one since she launched on the weekend. I'm not, because I also have my entrelac blanket I want to cast on. So I'm just going to stick with this one for the moment. I will be over the moon if I can get this done. That would be my first scrappy crochet blanket. So, but yeah, so about roughly, you know, maximum of halfway through, jump on in. We've got the chatter thread going on. Obviously, we will put up the finished object photos thread in a while, but don't envisage that being just yet. Both Sherrie and I have chatter threads, and most people, from what I've seen already, are double dipping. They're going backwards and forwards, which is lovely. If you don't want to post in both groups, that's absolutely fine as well. We'll be pulling prizes from both, so you won't miss out. I'm hopping into Sherrie's group, she's hopping into mine, so it's all very easy going. Post a picture of where you're at, and then we can see your progress and just chat and get some ideas. If you're not sure if you want to cast on a scrappy blanket, then, you know, jump on in and there'll be people who can give you ideas for patterns and yarns and what have you. And we've also said that although we're not going to organise a mini swap, if any of you want to organise between you a mini swap, swap some scraps and things, just put a comment up in the chatter thread, and then for people who are interested, we can just put together a list and you can contact whoever if anybody's near you. Somebody's already suggested that we do a UK swap group and an overseas swap group, or a USA one. I think we've got some Antipodean friends as well, so maybe, you know, a Southern Hemisphere swap. Quite happy to facilitate anything like that. That would be really lovely. So just mention that on there if you're keen. And Sherrie and I will be drawing prizes. We haven't decided how often, whether it be every month, every couple of months, don't know yet, we'll see. So at this point, I should say, if any makers out there want to donate prizes for this, then please contact me or Sherrie. You can message me on Instagram or on Ravelry, whatever. But if you want to offer some prizes, if you're a yarn dyer or a bag maker or anything to do with blankets or crochet or anything like that, just drop me a line. We would love to have prizes to give away. That would be great. Obviously, Sherrie and I will be putting together some prizes as well. So the other thing I should say, whilst we're on that subject, I am also very excited because I'm in the midst of designing a new scrappy blanket journal, basically, that I'm going to be putting into my Etsy shop. It's not quite there yet. I would have loved to have had it ready for today, but I don't want to rush it. I want to get the pages right. You know, when somebody gives you yarn and you really want to remember and who it is and when you've used it, well, it's going to have places for notes like that if you do a swap, or if you're knitting and there's the most amazing sunset, or if you're watching a really good TV show. I find it's really fun to look back and say, oh wow, I was watching, I don't know, The West Wing when I was knitting that, or I was, you know, Gilbert had arrived and I was sitting watching Gilbert in his cage whilst I was knitting, or, you know, whatever, just making those little notes so that you've got something to go along with your blanket as a kind of an heirloom piece, really. So I've got a bit further than this, but this is what I'm looking at. So that's going to be the title, The Secret Diary of a Scrappy Blanket, aged. And then at the end, you can put however many years it's taken you to make it. So I'm going to be making some of those, and we can all, if you want to, keep notes then about your blanket and about the things that are happening around it in your life, really. And I'm very into all of that. I'm into, as you know, I love the journaling side of things. I have one of those sentence a day, 5-year diaries. Never thought I'd keep it up, but I keep it by the side of my bed. And I literally write a couple of sentences in it every night before I go to sleep. And now I'm actually on the 3rd year. So as I'm going through, I can see exactly this day last year and this day the previous year, what we were doing. And it might even just be things like went to the cinema to see the Avengers, or met so-and-so in town, or Jonah came home for a visit. Sorry, that's honey scratching. But it's just nice to add those little notes, and you think, gosh, crikey, was that then? Because time flies, doesn't it? So yeah, really? Quite done? Yeah, she's laid down now, that's fine. So that is our make-along that we have launched now. Sherrie's launched it on her podcast. I have officially launched it here. If you would like to join in, and you can post on Instagram, use the hashtag scrappyblanketadventures, and I'll put that along there. And then we know we're both following that, and unless anybody thoroughly objects, we'll repost that in our stories so that we can all keep track of what we're all making. So yeah, pop on over to the Ravelry Group. Henry is now standing next to me with his head on my lap because he wants attention. Really? I'm going to try and ignore him. So we'll keep going. So yes, that is the scrappy blanket. Now, the next thing, I'm going to launch another knit along, or another make along number 2. Whoop, 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 whoop. I kind of touched on it last week, but I didn't really know quite where I was going. But the make along I'm going to launch as of today is called I Finished Mum, or even I Finished Mum, because I love stuff like that. And the hashtag indeed is going to be I Finished Mum, not I Finished Mum. That could be misconstrued, couldn't it? No, it would actually be I finished, comma, mum, but we can't put comma in a hashtag. So you can't put the possessive, the contraction apostrophe in I've either. So for those grammar police out there, of which I'm one usually, we're going to have to just take a chill pill about that. So I am launching the I Finished Mum make along. This, as you might guess, is for any whips you've got on the go that you just need that little nudge to get finished. Those stale projects that are in your dusty project bags, or even that you have been picking up from time to time, but you know what? It's fine to have loads of projects on the go, but sometimes the weight of them can be a bit heavy on your shoulders, can't it? And you get a bit frustrated with yourself, especially when you want to cast on all the new stuff. Not that I ever do that. So, as you know, I might have mentioned, I think I have 4 pairs of socks, not including the new ones I've just cast on. There's 4 pairs that I really, really want to finish, but not enough, clearly, to get them out of their bag and knit on them. So I'm going to start off the chatter thread today. I'm going to set it up in Ravelry, and I am going to put a picture of, or even, you don't even have to put a picture, you could just say what you want to finish, but I'm going to put pictures of the projects that I want to finish, and I'm going to run this through to the end of July. So where are we? Beginning of June. Should we do end of July? No, let's do end of August, because then I know everything's a bit topsy-turvy, but then kind of school's back in September, isn't it? So it's like a new term. So let's try and clear the decks a bit before the start of a new academic year. So yeah, we'll run it from now through to the end of August, and we will have a finished objects thread that you can post. But what I want you to do ideally is post a picture of your unfinished object, your whip, and then you can post the finished object in the finished object thread. And again, I will pull prizes from the finished object thread at the end of August. We will have prizes for that. So yeah, the only rules are that it needs to be a whip. It needs to be something that you're currently working on. For example, I probably wouldn't put the chicken sweater in there because I'm totally motivated and I'm happy, you know, I know I'm going to finish that one. I might put the shawl. no, I'm not going to, but I could possibly put my hummingbird shawl in there because I know that's going to be quite a lot of graft. But I'm definitely, for me, it's those socks. It's those half knitted socks that are sitting in those project bags, actually up there. They're all up there. And I want to get them finished. So I finished mum, knit along, crochet along, make along. If you've got a quilt that has been sitting there gathering dust that you want to finish, you can enter that. Anything you're making that you've kind of stalled on that you want to add in to the I've finished mum thread is absolutely fine by me, and I think that's really exciting. So I hope lots of you will jump in with that. Let's get some whips off our needles, because then, let's face it, we've then got a massive excuse to cast on a whole load of new things in September. Love it. Okay, clapping myself, that's a little bit narcissistic, isn't it? Right, what else have I got on my notes? So that's the two make-alongs. We've got Scrappy Blanket Adventures and I've Finished Mum make-along. They're both make-alongs. Okay, good. Right, next up. Okay, so I have a couple of sewing related things now, stitching related things. First of all, my cross stitch, which I am going to be accountable to the podcast for. That's Henry walking backwards and forwards. I will put a video at the end of him. He was killing a cardboard box earlier, and now it's all over the floor. So whenever he walks up and down, not only do you hear his footsteps on the floor, you hear the rustle of the cardboard and the paper. That's you I'm talking about. That is you, yes. I've got two big brown eyes looking up at me. Yes, back to women, amazing women of the 20th century, my cross stitch. I shouldn't have spoken to Henry because there they go. If they get too noisy, I will put them outside, but then, as you know, they will scratch on the door. So settle down, please. Let me show you. Look at that. So this is what I've been working on. This is dear Rosa Parks. There's her bus, which is almost finished, and 7053, which I guess is the bus number. I've not got very much more at all to do on that. So there we go. Really, really pleased. What was that? Oh, this is the thread for the glass that I'm putting in the bus windscreen there at the moment. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I just did that on Sunday. Ow! I break my finger. Do you know what? I always wondered why people had needle minders on their cross. Oh God. That really hurt. Okay, might have to put that on my list to get a needle minder for myself. So, sorry, I was so distracted by my blooming dogs being a nuisance that, yeah, that's my cross stitch. So, I don't have the details. Yes, I do. Here we go. Fabulous Women in History. That's what it is. And it's from Clouds Factory, which is on the interwebs as cloudsfactory.net. So have a look on that. I bought the pattern, and then I bought the pattern and downloaded it. And then I bought all the threads and the Ada fabric, the Ada cloth I bought separately and made up my own kit basically. So that is that. The other thing that I want to share with you is my English paper piecing that I've been working on, and I have something else to tell you about that as well, which was some really exciting happy mail that I got, to use Sherrie's phrase. So now, where did I put my needle on this one? Right, at the moment, although it's getting big, I keep my hexes in this basket. This is a Kath Kidston basket I've had for ages, and I actually keep the needle there, which is a bit more sensible. I am nearly through all the first lot of hexes that I have glued and backed with the paper. So let me show you, because as you remember last week I didn't get any of this done and I was really sad about it. There you go. Ta-da! It's a real cacophony of colour. Look at all those lovely fabrics. I've just put this one in actually, look, Spice. And then I managed to get, where is it? My favourite, look at that one. She is so pretty. And then this one, I love the colour of. That's a sort of a periwinkle. All of them. There's not one there that I don't absolutely love. So I'm getting there. Look at that. I don't know where there is because I don't know what I'm making. But I'm just adding them on. Oops. I'm just going round and round. There's the back. And actually, I think my stitching is okay. I'm so enjoying this. So I've got about 10 more to go. I do have the second pack I got from Rachel, who is, because people asked, Made by Rachel on Etsy. Is that focusing? If not, I'll put it across the bottom anyway, because I know a few people had problems finding her. The Etsy search engine isn't brilliant. And I know for a fact that she's actually putting some more hexies into her shop this afternoon. So, which is, when you watch this, it'll be yesterday, Wednesday afternoon. But I know a lot of you have found her and are following her. So, and she makes the hexies from the scraps she makes from making her beautiful project bags. So I've bought a couple of those, which is lovely. And I'm not following a pattern. I'm literally just enjoying putting those together. But, I got a lovely present in the mail from Katie over in, I want to say Arizona, but I think that's wrong, Katie. I'm so sorry. She's a Southern Ladies Ramblings on Instagram. And she reached out, a couple of weeks ago, because obviously this came over from America. Oh, where is she? GA, is that Georgia? Do forgive me, I'm really ignorant as to the abbreviations. Henry's tearing up some paper again. Anyway, Katie reached out to me. She lives in a yurt, and if you go on her Instagram and look at her pictures, it's amazing. Anyway, because they have a small holding as well. And she has a machine. Again, I'm new to all of this, so you have to forgive me, but that cuts templates for fussy cutting. I wanted to say fancy cutting. And she said, could you send me some? Well, yes, please. So she sent me those with the perspex and then those. So she sent me a couple of those each. She sent me a couple of laminated normal ones. She sent me a whole load of, and she asked what size my hexies were. So she's matched them into what I'm doing. So she sent me a whole load of papers to put in the back of them. And then she's cut out a load of, which way around are they? Oh my goodness. Look at that donut. I haven't had a chance to really look at all these. I was so taken with the templates that I didn't go through all of these. And then you've got, what have we got here? So I've got some floral, really pretty floral one there. There's, oh, that's a pretty colour. Love those colours there. There's a whole load of them. Katie, these are awesome. Now there's one here, actually, let me show you. I had a project bag in a fabric similar to that somebody gave me who lives in America. Years ago that wasn't recently. These are fantastic, and that looks to me like a Tula fabric because of the colours. So she sent me all of those and I'm so chuffed. She had tickets. Her daughter lives in the UK and she said her daughter had tickets for her. So Katie was going to come over to the UK, but they had to cancel it because of the coronavirus thing, which is really sad. But Katie, these are awesome. Thank you so much. Just love them. So yeah, a Southern Ladies Ramblings, if anybody wants to go and check out her Instagram feed. They came over, yeah, look at those, love that stamp. Isn't that pretty? And the poinsettia. I think it's a poinsettia. Yeah. So that was some really happy mail. Really tickled about that. And actually, no, I've got some more happy mail to share with you. But just finishing up on the sewing side of things then. If you watched my vlogs, sorry, Henry's doing his thing. He's laying right by my wheel of my chair now. So if I wish out, I'll probably take his paw off. What was it last week I took his nose off? Yeah, Mother of the Year, as I keep saying. Now, where are we? Yes, you know, I've also been dabbling in making quilt toppers with the sewing machine, so not just the English paper piecing. And again, if you remember, I was doing a class locally until the shop had to close because of the new regulations. So I put that on hold, and I've been playing around making half square triangles. And I got to the point where I was making my own half square triangle quilt topper, and I had bought a charm pack of Tilda fabric. Now, I absolutely adore Tilda fabric. I always have done. I've made Tilda dolls, I've made Tilda all sorts. So I'm a big Tilda fan. If you look on her website, tildasworld.com, I believe, but again, I will endeavour to put it here. If not, I'll put a link down below. The aesthetic is just beautiful. So I had the charm packs and I made some half square triangles, and then I was topping it up with some fabric that I bought at the quilt shop or the sewing shop that I was doing my class at. Then I did my sustainable-ish Lent, which meant I couldn't buy any more for the duration of Lent. So I was using up scraps and things. So, and since then, this has sat because I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go with it. But yesterday I pulled it out this week. Sorry, just dogs, don't ever work with dogs. Actually, or me, because that's all my stuff. It's not Henry's. Right, get your wheel out. So, I don't think I've showed this on the podcast. So this is how far I've got with my half square triangle quilt. Let me see if I can go back here to give you a better view. There you go. Well, that's how big it is. Can you see? Because I can't see. There. And there you are. The dogs have decided to walk around and wrestle. So, yeah. So you can see I started off, I found a picture of a quilt I liked, and I'm just basically following the picture because it is just pretty much half square triangles. So I started this. So this was just actually this has got gold on it. I'm trying to find some more of that. I can't remember where I got it from. And these are all Tilda fabrics that I made with the half square triangles. I then put a border because I thought that would look nice in this really, again, really pretty hearts. I think that might be Tilda, looking at the graphics. I'm not sure. I picked that up at the Patchwork Cat, the shop that I go to. Then I had some fat quarters, and so I just took it around the outside with a mishmash. So I tried to make, so on the inside, try not to drop this in my tea, I used the cream as the contrasting colour. Around this side I've used this really pretty mint bird as the contrast. This was a fabric sent to me by lovely Amy, Taylor S Studio Amy. She sent me a little pack and had some of those in. That's actually a Liberty fabric I had in my stash. Yeah, I think that was no, that was mine as well. There is another couple from Amy. But anyway, that's where I'm at. So it's nearly, I would say, wide enough. I think I want to put one more block on each side and then just work on the length for that. So yes, I have ordered another charm pack of the Tilda fabrics because I thought I could put others on, but I just think the consistency of it would be really lovely. And again, I shall probably make that single bed size. But I need to get some more cutting and some more going on that one. Okay, so that's the quilt. Again, I've no idea how long I've been waffling because I'm recording this in segments to avoid having a huge file to upload to my computer. So that's the quilt. There's plenty more quilt talk, but not for this week. I'm going to spare you that. You'll be pleased to know. What else did we talk about? So we've done cross stitch, we've done my EPP. I think I might open an EPP thread, pardon the pun, in the Ravelry group, just for general chatter at the moment and hints and tips and tricks. And you can jump in there because, again, I know quite a few of you multi-talented folk out there dabble in EPP as well, so it might be nice to put some pictures up and we can all get inspiration from each other. I also know Sherrie does English paper piecing, so yeah, all sorts going on there. So I will open a chatter thread, but it will just be that at the moment. Plans are afoot for a make along, but not just yet. I don't think I better flood you with too much going on. Spinning I'm not going to share with you this week. I have been spinning on the second lot of fibre that I showed on my demonstration last week, which I think a lot of you found interesting. So thank you for your response to that. I have ordered some more fibre from Hilltop Cloud. I'll share that with you next week. So far as makes go, that's probably it. I think you probably had quite enough. Thank you for all the purchases from the shop, actually, that you've made. The word seems to be getting out about the project cards, which is really exciting. I'm getting lots of interest. I've just actually been, because I've had quite a few orders now for the packs, the pre-printed packs of 10. I've sold out of the covers at the moment. I have got some more that I'm going to be making. But this week I might not put any in. I think I'll probably have a little break from that so that I can actually do the craft. Otherwise I don't get anything done. But I have been working through cutting up all of these cards, project cards to send out in their packs. So if you've ordered a pack of 10, then they will be coming out to you most likely tomorrow. I'll be sending those out, so that's good. Finally then, I wanted to share with you one more bit of happy mail that I had, happy email actually, and another pattern that I'm really excited about, very small pattern, so you're all right. Lovely friend locally, Janine, who is the Faithful Sheep on Instagram. We only met beginning of this year actually. She came along to the Socks on the Beach meetup that we had in Eastbourne, and she actually lives local to Eastbourne as well. We discovered we live quite close to each other, so that was amazing. She's also a Christian, which was lovely. Another person to share my faith with, which is always encouraging and fantastic. As of course is Sherrie, which is just amazing how we're all coming together. I love it. And Jan actually bought my Ashford traditional spinning wheel because I was looking to rehome it. I didn't want a huge amount of money for it, just enough to keep me in a bit more yarn. And so she took, as it's now been called apparently, Clara, to her new home, and I was going to give her a spinning lesson, but obviously with lockdown we couldn't do that. I'm sure she'll manage on her own, but if not, when restrictions are lifted, I will obviously show her how to spin. But imagine my delight when in my Ravelry inbox suddenly landed a note that I had been gifted a pattern by Jan. And she has actually, not only has she gifted me the pattern, she's going to give me the yarn as well, which is just beyond generous. And she has signed me up for the Curious Handmade Mystery Knit Along. So many of you will know, obviously, Helen Stewart, very popular designer. I can show you the sheet that I've got. So she's Curious Handmade, and she's doing an MCAL, a mystery knit along, and it's called the Stillness Shawl. And for those of you who don't know how mystery knit alongs work, basically you get clues released to you each week, and you knit that bit of the clue, you knit that bit of the shawl, and then you have to wait for the next week to see the next bit. You don't know what the shawl is going to look like in the end. The only thing I'm worried is that she does make honking big shawls. So I'm going to have to commit to this one. and it starts on the 25th of June. She tells you the type of yarns and the colour combinations, so she gives you guidance on that. So with this one, she talks about having 3 contrasting colours. I'm just trying to find it. Blah, blah, blah. A light, medium and a dark colour will play well, and speckles are a perfect match. I do like speckles. So yeah, and you need 3 skeins of yarn. I mean, I was chuffed enough with this present, but the fact that Jan has said that she wants to dye the yarn for me again it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be so unique. It's going to be fantastic. So thank you, Jan, so much for gifting this to me, for giving it to me as a gift, because we have this thing that gift isn't a verb, but again, grammar police. So obviously, if anyone else, if you're jumping in on that as well, do let us know. It's great, and that might well be something that could qualify for the I Finished Mum knit along that we're having. So that was really, really lovely though. And quite a few of you on Ravelry are finding me and adding me as a friend. Thank you. Obviously, I will add you back as a friend. That's lovely. Finally, breathe a sigh of relief. Finally, the dogs are getting tetchy, which means it's probably nearly 4 o'clock. I was looking on Ravelry for a Mary Jane Mucklestone pattern of a hat that I wanted to knit. Oh, look, I've got the low power mode come up. Oh, my battery. Even my phone is getting bored. And I came up with, let me find you this, and I saw this and I thought, I've just got to have this and I've got to do it. As I said, I love knitting colour work. I absolutely adore knitting colour work. I have a big tub of Shetland yarn from Jameson's and Jameson & Smith, because I've made lots of Kate Davis colourwork project in the past. So I've got lots of leftovers. And Mary Jane Mucklestone has done this pattern called the Darling Pincushion. Look at those. Are they not just adorable? Excuse me, honey, enough. She's giving me a look. Enough. She's now got the big strip of paper that comes with Amazon parcels. I'm sorry, I'll try and be quick now. This, anyway, yeah, the a Darling Pincushion, a colour study. It's a paid for pattern, but I can see many of these in my future, because I also love the idea of making them into little lavender pouches. Little lavender, so if they're not, I mean, they'll be a quick knit. They are small. And Jameson's knits up so beautifully. And what she has done in the, I can't show you, but she's given you how many charts? 1, 2, 4 different charts, 4 different colour combos that you can make. So it's almost like 4 patterns with this. And they are only, how big are they? Finished size is less than 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. I was going to grab again. Let's show you my homeschooling ruler. So yeah, so that's 10 centimetres, so 10 centimetres square. So they're not big, and they would be so lovely to have as little presents for people, wouldn't they? That would be so cute. And yeah, you can either stuff them with batting and use them as pin cushions. You could put lavender in them. You can make them into little, I don't know, little headphone bags. But I just think they are darling. They really are darling. So I'm going to make some of those. Just saying. Just putting it out there. Right. Enough of all that nonsense. I've been through everything there. I've talked about the make-alongs. Don't forget all the make-alongs. Well, all the make-alongs. There's only 2. Hop on over to Sherrie's podcast if you don't already watch her. Follow her on Instagram as well. We're going to be doing lots of joint stuff because we are both brimming with ideas for make-alongs and creating a really lovely, uplifting little community between us all of crafters and makers. So we're both very, very, very keen on that. We're both also very happy to share our faith. And so a lot of the stuff we'll be doing will be based just on, not super scriptural or biblical or anything like that, but on the things that, you know, you would hope to see in life, that you want to see in life, joyful, uplifting things. So that's really what we're all about, both of us, I think it's fair to say. So yeah, check out those. I'm going to go now. Typically the dogs have stopped making the noise they were making, but it is probably coming up to their tea time, so I need to go and feed them, and then I will be back. Remember the book review this week, we are doing, what did I say we were doing? Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Fantastic. And yeah, I think that's probably all for now. So for the moment, you know what I'm going to say. Be more sheep, keep cheerful, have a lovely week, get crafting, get on the Ravelry group, do all the things, make people smile, give someone a, oh no, you can't give someone a hug, give someone a virtual hug, give someone a social distance hug. And I will see you all either next week, or if you want to hear the book review, I will see you all in a little while. Okay, the dogs are outside. I think they're asleep in the kitchen and they haven't realised that I've come back into my room. So hopefully I'll be able to record this without too much distraction. So I do that. Right. Okay, so the book I want to talk to you about today is called Big Magic. The book I want to talk to you today, the book I want to talk to you about today is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And because I only have it on audiobook, I don't have a picture of it to show you or anything to wave around. So I'm just going to show you, I've got a picture up on my screen of my laptop, just so you get an idea of the cover art. So that's from Audible. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't have it. Hang on, I just got a review there that I'm going to read to you. It's not that I don't have it because I don't think it's worth having. I have listened to it so many times on Audible since I had it, partly because I just love Elizabeth Gilbert's voice. It's so warm and soothing. And yeah, it's just a book that I first bought on Audible, and quite often I would buy the hard copy book, but I just haven't got around to it yet. I think I will at some point, because this book for me is it has to be in my library. It has to be on my bookshelf. As you probably know, Elizabeth Gilbert is most famous for writing Eat, Pray, Love, which from when I talked about it, or I mentioned it last November on one of my vlogs, it's kind of a bit Marmite. People either love it or hate it. I went to see the film. I hadn't read the book, never heard of Elizabeth Gilbert. I went to see the film because I was intrigued, and I really didn't like the film. I was bored out of my mind at the film, very disappointed. So put it to one side, never really thought about it again. And then for some reason, I think, as you know, I'm a big fan of Gretchen Rubin, and I think in the same kind of swathe of writers I was looking at, Elizabeth Gilbert's name came up again. And so I bought Eat, Pray, Love on Audible, and I absolutely loved it. And again, whether it was because it was the author reading it, or whether the book, you just couldn't make that into a film. I think they were wrong to even try to make it into a film. But anyway, I then was recommended Big Magic, and it's a non-fiction journey, or a non-fiction discussion of creativity, basically. And I've just been having a look at some of the reviews on Amazon. As some of the people are saying, oh, she doesn't tell you anything what to do, she doesn't give you any practical steps. It's not a self-help book in that way. It's a discussion. It's an open and frank discussion of her approach to inspiration, finding inspiration, how to further your ideas about things, how to really jump out of your comfort zone and into your creativity. And yeah, I absolutely love it. Some of the ideas I think are a little bit out in left field for me, but by the same token, a lot of the things she says are so inspiring and so kind of real. They're things that you think, actually, do you know what? She's right. She talks about fear, about the fear of being vulnerable when you put your own creativity on display. She talks about how to, what's the word? You don't overcome your fear, but you learn to live with it as you move on and you move forward. And she just urges us all to really not be afraid of being creative and finding our sort of inner creative self. And I think if you're watching my podcast, it probably means that you are a creative person. And so I think, you know, I really would recommend this to you. I have my laptop here. I'm just going to read you because, you know, often I read you little clips and I can't actually read from the book for you. Okay, this is what's inside the front flap of the book. Now this beloved author digs deep into her own life to share her wisdom and unique perspective about creativity. With profound empathy and generosity, she ponders the mysterious nature of inspiration, asking us to embrace our curiosity, tackle what we most love, and face down what we most fear. Whether we are looking to create art, address challenges in our work, give ourselves permission to embark on a dream long deferred, or simply to infuse our everyday lives with more mindfulness and passion, Big Magic cracks open a world of wonder and joy. And yeah, that's kind of it really. It's about finding wonder and allowing yourself to feel that kind of excitement of creativity. It's so easy, isn't it, in this life to be downtrodden or to allow yourself, for just not anyone in particular, but for life to kind of hammer you down, to beat you down. You know, there's so much challenging and difficult stuff going on in the world that has to be addressed, quite rightly has to be addressed, but not all the time and not at the cost of our own sense of peace and our own sense of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think you probably know what I'm trying to say. I'm not advocating a hedonistic or a self-centered lifestyle in any way, shape or form. But what I am supporting is Elizabeth Gilbert's premise that we should all feel able to allow our creativity to be expressed. We shouldn't be afraid of other people's opinion. We shouldn't be afraid of just putting ourselves out there. And it's really hard, even for me, just doing the podcast, you know, it's hard. You put yourself out there, you put yourself up for judgment and for comments and things, and you think, what if people think I'm silly? What if I'm not brave enough? You know, I'm not brave enough to put myself out there. Hey, put yourself out there, but do it for yourself. And that's what Elizabeth Gilbert says. This isn't a message from me. It's what I believe, but it is also what Big Magic is all about. It's learning to find your own big magic and reaching inwards and finding your creativity. And she puts some funny stories in. She talks about some tips and tricks. There's some things that I picked up that have really stood by me. Particularly, there's one story she tells about fear and about the fact that we all have fear, and fear is always going to be a passenger in our car on the trips we take in life. But she says it really well. She sums it up and she says, right, fear, you can come, you can ride in the car. We will accept that you're part of this journey, but you don't get to choose what music we listen to. You don't get to choose the direction we're going. And you certainly don't get to get your hands on the steering wheel and drive. And I think that's such a brilliant allegory, I'm not sure which that would be, but you know, that really speaks to me. So much in this book speaks to me. And as I say, I think if you are creative, then I think it will speak to you. As I say, there are parts of it that she proffers that there are things in the universe flying around like inspiration, looking for a good place to land. I think I look at that as metaphorically, and you can choose. Obviously, you're free to choose which bits you agree with, which bits you don't. But as I say, I would really commend this book to you. If you can get it on Audible and you can listen to her, for me, I would listen to her because she reads it with a passion and an empathy, obviously, that you wouldn't get reading from a book. But by the same token, it's worth having the book. So there you are, Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic, the strapline, Creative Living Beyond Fear. That is my recommendation of the week. And that's it from me for now, for another week. Next week I will probably be back to reviewing, I suspect there's a couple of classics are fighting for a bit of attention. So we might jump back into my comfort genre, which is classics, but we'll see how the week goes. So happy reading, check out Big Magic, and I will see you next time.